Listen carefully. Imagine a vast, endless land, where the wind whispers over dry plains, where no human voice has ever echoed, and where silence holds the memories of millions of years. In this silence, more than 7 million years ago, something stirred. A creature, neither fully ape nor human, yet carrying the faint blueprint of what we would one day become. Its name, discovered much later, would be etched in the history of science as Sahelanthropus chidensis. But to imagine it back then, you must close your eyes and see a living shadow, moving awkwardly through an unforgiving world, carrying in its bones the very first whispers of humanity. Before fire, before tools, before language and cities and civilizations, before even the concept of memory, there was Sahelanthropus. A being that never knew what destiny was written within it, a destiny it could never comprehend, but one that would eventually lead to us. It stood, in moments, on 2 feet, testing the ground of a world not yet ready for men. It peered out with deep, forward-looking eyes that hinted at awareness, curiosity, perhaps even something like thought. And yet, it was fragile, bound to a brutal landscape that demanded survival every second of the day. The world of Sahelanthropus was not like ours. It was not lush with comforts, nor filled with safety. It was a place of predators that lurked in shadows, of rivers that rose and swallowed life, of storms that erased paths and tore apart fragile shelters. Imagine standing in those plains, no houses, no tools, no fire, only the body you were born with, a body still learning what it means to stand upright. This was the struggle of our most ancient ancestor. The story begins in the heart of Africa, in a region we now call Chad. Dry and vast, yet once it held swamps, forests, and lakes. Millions of years ago, it was a shifting land, sometimes lush, sometimes cruelly dry. Sahelanthropus lived here, moving slowly through tall grasses, climbing trees when danger appeared, scavenging for fruits, leaves, maybe even small insects to eat. Its world was one of constant searching, for safety, for food, for the next chance to survive another day. But survival was not easy. Around them roamed predators, giant crocodiles lurking in the rivers, saber-toothed beasts waiting in silence, hyenas with jaws powerful enough to crush bones. A small, fragile creature like Sahelanthropus had no claws to defend itself, no sharp teeth to fight back, no great speed to outrun hunters. And yet, in its design, it carried something unique: the ability to move upright, to use 2 legs, freeing its hands. It was clumsy, yes, but revolutionary. For the first time in history, nature was testing a new path. Think of this moment as a spark, tiny, fragile, almost invisible, yet powerful enough to ignite the fire of all human history. That spark was bipedalism, the ability to walk on 2 feet. Sahelanthropus may not have done it always. Perhaps it still climbed trees, knuckled on all fours when it needed speed, but the possibility was there. In that possibility, evolution found a door it had never opened before. Picture a single Sahelanthropus standing upright under the fading sun. The sky burns orange and purple, the air heavy with heat. Around it, the cries of animals echo through the grasslands. It looks far into the horizon, its eyes forward like no ape before it, seeing the distance in a way others could not. That moment, insignificant then, holds the seed of everything that would follow, our ability to see the future, to plan, to dream. And yet, for Sahelanthropus, there were no dreams. Only hunger, fear, instinct. Its life was short, perhaps only 20 or 30 years at best. Disease struck without warning. Injuries meant death. A fall from a tree, a bite from a predator, even a broken bone could mean the end. And Sahelanthropus lived not for tomorrow, but for the desperate now. Millions of years later, when scientists unearthed the skull of Sahelanthropus in the sands of Chad, they were shocked. The skull was small, about the size of a chimpanzee's, but the face, flat, with forward-looking eyes, looked hauntingly familiar. As if it carried, deep inside, the first trace of what would one day be a human face. They called it Tumai, a name from the local language, meaning hope of life. Hope, because in that cracked, ancient skull lay the first chapter of humanity's story. But let us not rush to discovery. For in this part of the story, Sahelanthropus still walks, still breathes, still clings to life under the burning African sun. Imagine a small group of them, a scattered family moving cautiously through the brush. They huddle together, for unity is strength. Alone, they are weak. Together, they are less likely to fall prey. A mother carries her young, clinging tightly to her fur. The child does not know that it is part of a line that will stretch across eternity, that its fragile grip is one of the first gestures of what we call love. There is a storm approaching. The sky grows dark, thunder growls like some ancient god. The group seeks shelter under the trees, frightened, cold, shivering as rain begins to pour. They do not know fire. They do not know how to build. All they can do is endure. But in their endurance lies something extraordinary. The same instinct that would one day build homes, cities, civilizations. Survival was not yet culture, but it was the seed of it. The nights were the hardest. Darkness brought fear. Without fire, there was no light, no warmth, no defense. Every sound in the grass was a threat. Eyes glowing in the dark could mean death. And so they huddled together, the weak relying on the strong, the young clinging to their mothers. Perhaps they cried softly, their voices carried by the wind, never knowing that in millions of years, their descendants would conquer the night with light brighter than stars. In these moments, Sahelanthropus was fragile, yes, but it was also the beginning of resilience. Nature was testing them, forcing them to adapt. And adaptation is the story of all life. They could not know it, but every step they took on 2 feet, every time they lifted their heads to scan the horizon, they were shaping the path of evolution. They were the first walkers of a journey that would not end until man set foot on the moon. But not all survived. Many perished. Skeletons left behind in the mud, bones scattered by scavengers, lives forgotten by the earth. Entire groups may have been wiped out by drought, by predators, by accidents. Evolution is cruel. It does not protect, it does not care. It only selects. For every Sahelanthropus that lived, countless others died, nameless and silent. But in that silence, the survivors carried the story forward. Think about it. Every human alive today carries, in the deepest core of their being, the shadow of Sahelanthropus. In the way we stand, in the way our skull is shaped, in the forward gaze of our eyes, we are echoes of this ancient creature. Without it, there would be no us. No language, no art, no music, no love, no civilizations. Sahelanthropus was the fragile beginning of everything. And yet, when we imagine him, we must not romanticize too much. Their lives were not heroic. They did not know their role. They did not know they were ancestors. They were just creatures, struggling to survive like all others. To them, the world was not history, it was danger. Their story was not written in words but in bones buried under sand. Now, picture one night. The group is asleep in the branches of trees. A young Sahelanthropus stirs, restless. The stars shine above, though it cannot understand them. A predator prowls below, silent, waiting. The young one shifts too far, loses grip, and falls. A cry echoes in the night, but the forest swallows it. By morning, nothing remains but silence. Such was life, brutal, short, unforgiving. And still, despite the cruelty of existence, life continued. For millions of years, generation after generation, Sahelanthropus lived and died in Africa, unseen, unremembered. But slowly, very slowly, evolution worked its hand. From them would rise other forms, each one closer to humanity. But Sahelanthropus, though primitive, was the dawn, the very first page of our story. The tragedy is this: they never knew. They never knew that their struggles, their hunger, their pain, would lead to something greater. That their fragile steps would one day echo in cathedrals, in skyscrapers, in music, in poetry, in science. They never knew they carried within them the seed of gods and dreamers. To them, life was only a storm to survive. And so, their story is both miraculous and heartbreaking. As the first part of this tale closes, imagine the last rays of sun fading over the African plains 7 million years ago. A Sahelanthropus walks slowly, upright for a moment, its shadow stretching long across the ground. It does not know that it is history. It does not know that millions of years later, humans will uncover its bones and whisper its name. It only walks, small and fragile, into a night filled with danger. That is where we leave them, for now, in silence, in struggle, in mystery. Sahelanthropus, the first to take the step, the first to hold the secret of what we would become. Their story is not finished, for it continues in part 2, where the shadow of this creature begins to lead into the line of evolution that shapes us. The sun rises again over the plains of ancient Africa. The sky glows crimson, the land is still, but in that stillness, life stirs. Sahelanthropus moves through tall grasses, quiet, cautious, fragile. To the unknowing eye, it is only another creature in a world overflowing with beasts. But to us, Looking back across millions of years, it is more than a creature. It is the fragile root of the great tree of humanity. And yet, even the strongest roots may not last. Evolution is merciless. It tests, it discards, it forgets. Sahelanthropus would not escape this fate. Its kind, like a flickering flame, shone briefly and then vanished into the darkness of time. Their bones, scattered and broken, buried beneath layers of earth, remained silent for millions of years. But let us not jump too quickly to their end. For first, we must walk with them a little longer. Imagine a group of Sahelanthropus by a riverbank. The water glimmers, dangerous yet tempting. Crocodiles lurk just below the surface, but thirst drives them close. One bends, dipping its small, flat face toward the water. Its reflection stares back, two forward eyes, strangely human. But it does not know what it sees. Reflection means nothing. Self-awareness, identity, these belong to the far future. For now, the only meaning in that face is survival. Life for them was always on the edge. Food was scarce. They ate what they could: fruits, leaves, roots, insects. Sometimes they scavenged, daring to pick from carcasses left by predators. Their teeth, flat yet strong, ground through tough plants. Every bite was a fight against hunger. There were no choices, no luxuries, no dreams. Only need. But hunger was not the only enemy. The climate itself shifted. The world they knew, once scattered with swamps and forests, began to dry. The lakes shrank, the trees pulled back, the grasslands stretched further. With fewer trees came fewer places to hide. Sahelanthropus, small and vulnerable, faced the open plains, where predators ruled. The sky was wide, but wide skies meant wide exposure. Every step was a risk. And so, some scholars believe, bipedalism was not only a possibility but a necessity. Standing upright helped them see farther across the grass, spotting danger before it struck. Two legs freed their hands, even if they were not yet skilled enough to use tools. Evolution was laying foundations slowly, carefully, painfully. 1,000,000 years meant nothing to nature, it had time. But to Sahelanthropus, every second was a struggle to live. Still, groups like these carried on, generation after generation. Mothers carried infants, fathers watched over them, though father and mother were not concepts then. They were simply roles of instinct. And yet, in those instincts, there was tenderness. A mother cradling her infant, what is that but the very first glimpse of love? And then, the predators came. Always the predators. Lions with bone-crushing jaws, saber-toothed cats that stalked in silence, massive snakes, and the endless threat of crocodiles at every river. Even eagles could swoop upon the young. Life was war, and Sahelanthropus had little armor. Many fell. Entire groups may have been wiped out in a single night. But others survived, stubbornly carrying the fragile chain of life forward. But here lies the tragedy. Sahelanthropus did not last forever. After perhaps a few 100,000 years, they vanished. No fossils beyond a few scattered remains have been found. Their line did not continue unchanged. Instead, evolution moved forward, shaping new forms: Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and finally Homo sapiens. Sahelanthropus was only the dawn, not the day. Their fire went out, but in their ashes, new flames would rise. And so we ask, why remember them? Why tell their story, if they did not survive? The answer is simple: because they were first. Because without them, there would be no second, no third, no us. They are the forgotten dawn, the face of the beginning. Millions of years later, when scientists uncovered the skull in the sands of Chad, they held in their hands not just a fossil, but a memory. Cracked, incomplete, but powerful. A window into a time so distant it feels like myth. Yet it was real. That skull, Tumai, looked back at us across 7 million years, whispering, "This is where you came from." Close your eyes and imagine holding that skull. Small, fragile, only 350 cubic centimeters of brain capacity. And yet, inside that small space, evolution was beginning its long experiment. The skull's flat face, its forward eyes, these were the first hints of humanity. It is like seeing the first brushstroke of a masterpiece. The full painting would take millions of years, but here was the first line on the canvas. But Sahelanthropus itself did not know it was painting. It never knew the meaning of its existence. It did not know that one day creatures called humans would uncover its bones, study them, name them, argue over them. It lived, it died, and it was gone. Its tragedy is its ignorance, but its gift is our existence. Think about this. Everything you are, your language, your laughter, your sorrow, your dreams, all of it rests on the shoulders of creatures like Sahelanthropus. Without them, there would be no us. And yet, they will never know us. They lived and died in silence, forgotten by time, remembered only by bones. And so, we come to the end of their story. Picture it, a small group of Sahelanthropus, moving slowly under the setting sun. The air is thick with heat, the sky painted in blood and gold. They walk upright for a few steps, awkward but steady. Their shadows stretch long across the earth. They do not know that these steps are the first in the journey to humanity. They do not know that they are walking into history. Night falls. Predators circle. The group huddles together, their eyes wide, their breaths quick. One by one, the generations will fade, leaving nothing behind but bones. In time, even those bones will be buried, forgotten, waiting for the hands of future humans to find them. And when we found them, when we uncovered Tumai from the sand, we did not just find a skull. We found a mirror into a time when we were not yet us, but something in between. A time when survival was the only law, and when evolution began its slow, patient climb toward consciousness. Sahelanthropus is gone, but in every step you take, in every word you speak, in every dream you dream, they live on. Their story is our story. Their struggle is our inheritance. Their silence is the soil from which our voices rise. And so, when you stand beneath the night sky and look at the stars, remember them. Remember the fragile creature that first lifted its head, first looked forward, first tested the path we would walk. Remember Sahelanthropus, the forgotten dawn of humanity.